Hi guys, I'm coming to you on this special show from New Delhi. I'm at the first ever India Mobile Congress. Now, if you couldn't make it to this event, well then this show is just for you. They've been talking about a lot of things at this event, especially whether India is really prepared for a 5G push. Also, how these big tech companies and telecom operators from around the world are actually planning to connect the next billion users. India seems to be a key market. Also, what's a bothie interview? Well, that's on this show as well. And of course, how does Reliance Jio's cable really work? Well, it's all on this one special show. Nostalgia and cutting-edge technology. It's the same company making these phones, and it looks like Nokia has finally made its comeback in India. And India is a key market. That's what Ajay Mehta of HMB Global tells me. And he also tells me what a bothie really is. Hi Ajay, thanks for joining us on Bloomberg Quint.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
All right. As you guys can see, we're clearly shooting on a Nokia 8. Now, Ajay, what y'all are coining this one as a bothie.
Yes. So be less selfie, be more bothie.
Be more bothie. Do you think this is a trend that will catch on?
Well, absolutely. We believe it is because it kind of tells you both sides of the story.
Right.
So when you take a selfie, it tells you one side of the story. The bothie tells you both sides of the story.
So what's interesting is, Ajay, that, there's two reasons that, Nokia and HMB Global have really grabbed the headlines this year. One being this bothie. And if this catches on, I want to go down in history as someone who did the first bothie interview with Ajay, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And even in the event that it doesn't catch on, well, there's still something that has made all of us really nostalgic and happy, which was the Nokia 3310. We got this on Bloomberg Quint to you, well, right at the start, and it's a lot of fun. There's a big element of nostalgia. It's been very popular. Yeah.
But the interesting, Ayush, has been that it's not just been bought by the old Nokia fans.
Yeah.
This has been bought even by the millennials of today.
I know.
So like I mentioned to you, the first time this was announced, my niece, 18-year-old niece, gave me a call and said she didn't want one, she wanted 20.
Right.
Of course, I couldn't send her that many, but whatever. It was it evoked interest across the board, across all age groups. So it's an interesting phenomenon.
No, it's interesting, Ajay. What I wanted to ask you was also from what you're trying to do at HMD Global. It's an interesting proposition, getting the Nokia rights. What has it been like, considering India is key? It's an imperative market for you guys. What's it been like coming up with products really tailor-made for the Indian market?
Yeah. So it's been a very, very exciting journey, to say the least. We are just 8 months into our company. We started on the 1st of December. And in 8 months, what we've been doing is essentially getting the asset base together. So we have a distribution network of 450 exclusive distributors covering 90,000 outlets.
Right.
That was the first one. The second one was the whole manufacturing piece. So we've partnered with Foxconn, and they've made their factory down in TN and AP, and now they're expanding.
So it's all made in India?
So every phone that's sold in India is made in India. Okay. That's been our philosophy from the start. So we've also have the whole factory setup that we've ramped up, and then we've ramped up the after-sales service. So as you know, in the past, Nokia Care has been, kind of pioneers in the after-sales business. So Nokia Mobile Care, as we call it now, we have about 350 outlets across the country, across 300 plus towns. And we also have, for Nokia 8, we have a concierge service in the top 50 countries. So you just call and somebody comes, gets your phone and repairs it and gives it back to you.
Considering, Ajay, some would also view that as a lot of baggage, considering that Nokia was known for their customer care, for their after-sales. Towards the end, customers were a little wary of what's happened in Nokia. Now that it's back, has that been very challenging to actually live up to those expectations? Because the brand name is still Nokia.
Yeah. So Nokia, as you know, Nokia values were very, very strong in this country, right? Nokia stood for reliability, for trust, for honesty, for humility. People really trusted Nokia wholeheartedly. Those values continue to be the values of Nokia. So if there's anything that is the same as the past, it's the core values. However, the rendition of it is very different now, right? So we need to, for example, we have an app on our phones, which provides after-sales service.
Right.
We have a digital means of reaching out to our consumers to get their feedback.
Right.
The way that we are, the rendition of our marketing is very, very digital today and targeted at the purposeful millennial. So while the core values have remained the same, we are in the process of building Nokia true to those core values.
Right.
So if there is, I would not call it a challenge, I would call it an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we have, and the start has been phenomenal. So we've launched those products.
So it's been a phenomenal start, Ajay, I agree, but this is a phone that everyone was waiting for, and you know, the few times that we do cover phones and blockbuster releases, this was something I was very curious about. Because everyone said it's going to be a very expensive phone. What will Nokia do when it's coming back? You're getting stock Android on it. It comes with a very strong Snapdragon processor as well. It's splash-proof. The narrative is all about this taking on the OnePlus 5 because that's a very popular phone already in India. How did you guys approach this particular product, especially when it comes to pricing at 36,999?
At 36,999. So yeah, I don't know about competition. So so the way we are building Nokia is we want to build the Nokia business in a way that we believe is the right way to build it. Right? So with Nokia 8, we bought three firsts. We bought the Zeiss optics technology. This is the first phone where we unveiled the Zeiss technology on our phones. Then it's the bothie, which you demonstrated beautifully right now. And that's a use case, incidentally. You can see the interviewer and the interviewee at one time. So the bothie, that's again for the first time on Nokia 8. And the third is the Nokia Ozo Audio, which provides crystal clear sound, and it also gives you the depth of the sound. And when you replay it on 4K video, it sounds brilliant. You know, so it's pretty much like bringing Hollywood and placing Hollywood in your palm. That was the proposition we wanted to take to the consumer, right? Given these propositions, we then look at pricing and we say, okay, what is the right price that we should, that the consumer is willing to pay for this kind of value? And that's how we've priced the product.
Right.
So we are very clear on what we want to deliver to the consumer. Then when it comes to competition, yes, it's a very competitive industry, and then tactically we will deal with whatever competition we have to. It's scared of competition. But the three philosophies on which we've built our products, which is one is pure Android, second is the design and craftsmanship. So even if you just see Nokia 8, this is it's a aluminium unibody built after a 40-stage anodization, machining, and polishing process. Right? Merges brilliantly with the glass in front. So it sits beautifully in your hand, as you can see.
Yeah.
Pure music. Feels beautiful. It really feels fantastic in the hand.
Right.
So the first one is pure Android, second is design and craftsmanship, and the third philosophy of ours is real-life experiences. So you'll notice we don't talk specs, but it's not because we are shy of specs. Our specs are as good, if not better, than what competition has out there. But what we talk about is experience.
Right.
We talk about an imaging experience. We talk about bothie. Right. We talk about having live streaming on our phones, which you can upload to social media with one touch.
And as a bothie as
well. As a bothie. Right. So we are talking experiences, and we don't talk specs.
Right. We might be doing perhaps a lot more interviews on Bloomberg Quint Digital First on these bothie phones. But there's another important question I want to ask you, Ajay, is when it comes to the Indian market, you mentioned it's a very cluttered space, it's a very competitive space, but when you do approach the Indian market, especially with a brand like Nokia coming back as HMD Global, how difficult does it seem, especially considering the influx of Chinese players and the amount of money that they've actually pumped in on marketing, on product placement, on manufacturing, all of that? What is, the vision for HMD Global in the next couple of years?
So, put very succinctly, in 3 to 5 years, we see ourselves amongst the top players in this country. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of money being spent in the market, a lot of money being spent on marketing, but we have the small advantage of a brand that is loved and known to many. We don't need to create awareness. 100% awareness is there. So to that extent, our marketing efforts can be directed mainly on driving preference consideration and converting the consumer. We are not going to be spending money inordinately. We want to build this business over the long term. We have a very long-term horizon for this business. So we will build it very systematically, very progressively, very strongly, but very surely. And that's what we plan to do. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we look to being among the top players in this country, and that's what we've set out to do.
As you can see, I'm here at the India Mobile Congress, just trying to see what this robotic arm is all about. No, this is not a sequel to Iron Man. I'm not trying to appear, like anything like Robert Downey Jr. What I'm trying to show you is how Internet of Things has come a long way. I'm at the Ericsson booth here at the India Mobile Congress, and you know what? There was also another key talking point here, and that was whether India is ready for 5G. And I caught up with the top names in the technology world just to find out the answer to that question.
I've been in India now about a year, living here. So when I first got here, it was a little bit of a take back to me, coming from where I've been working in the U.S. and Europe. But I actually began to understand it quite quickly. The feature phone actually serves a purpose. It serves a different purpose. Right? There's a usability factor, a durability factor, a battery management, life, all of these things. So the users that use these like them. And it's not as if they're in a hurry to jump to something else. Having said that, then there's a gap now. So you can't digitize India. You can't run a digital India initiative. You can't do a lot of the things that will start to become requirements for people to actually have a daily life in terms of banking or paying without having a digitalization. So the 4G feature phone, in my mind, becomes a transition product. So if you think about the consumer product industry, every consumer product transitions, all of them, right? And you had big cathode tube televisions, and the bigger, and then all of a sudden we had flat screens, right? And in a short amount of time, the whole world transitioned. And, CD players or cassette players to CD players to music boxes to etc. So I see this 4G feature phone, which is heavily focused on India as its initial market, as a significant transition product. 1/3 of those 500 million people that talk on a feature phone in India buy something every year.
That's right.
Roughly 100. That's how you get to 130 to 150 million market. They either buy another 2G feature phone, or they buy some type of entry smartphone, or in this case now they will have another opportunity. And with that 4G feature phone will come a lot of very interesting services. So it's not a dumbed down product. It has a good browser. It has NFC in there, a near field communication for payment. It has the ability to stream video. It has voice services. So it's a pretty strong value proposition for that user. And you go all the way back to how I started this. That user may not yet be ready to make the leap to a touch screen, a little more delicate, a little more expensive device.
Absolutely, Larry, and I completely agree with you, because it's about including that 500 million of that percentage of the population that perhaps isn't connected. But you were talking about leapfrogging, and it's kind of interesting because when it comes to the Indian market, another unique approach that I want to talk to you about was essentially what's happened with 3G and then 4G and now 5G. That was also my first question to you, because a lot of people actually say that when it comes to 4G connectivity, it's past. You've been here for a year. Do you really think, with your based on your talks with the government, based on your talks with OEMs and handset makers, and seeing what you have in India, that are we in any sense 5G ready? Are we on track to achieve that goal in 2020?
Okay, so let me just answer the question by backing you up just a little bit, right? You only have to go back 12 short months, or maybe 15 short months, to last May or June. 4G as a technology is still in final rollout phase in India. It's still being deployed.
Absolutely.
When 4G first came in as a technology, to be frank with you, it was really a faster 3G. But over the period of 7 or 8 years that it's been in the various markets, along came a set of IP-based, Internet Protocol-based services, right? And included in those services is voice, so bothie. And so bothie is a pretty complex feature functionality. To the user, it's pick up a phone, dial it, and talk. But what's going on there on voice over IP or bothie, voice over LTE, is very complex. So rolling that out and rolling out 4G is still in motion in India as we speak. Now, jumping that ship or jumping that bridge, the casualty in that is 3G, okay? Because 2G is still alive, and we'll see how that plays out. But the casualty then is 3G took a very fast cliff dive in terms of that, because essentially it's 4G brings more of the same, right, in terms of data. And the ecosystem in the world isn't making 3G phones anymore, so devices are going to show up in 4G.
Right.
Now, as far as the readiness goes for 5G, to be frank with you, it's a fairly complex situation. There are a number of factors that have to happen. One, the standards themselves are still in final shaping, the Release 15 and Release 16. Two, you have to have a regulatory situation to go through the spectrum.
Absolutely.
And spectrum and allocation. The spectrum's available and ready in India, and then how it, spectrum's a very valuable possession of the people, right? It belongs to the people. It's a government asset.
Right.
So how that rolls out is not simple.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you combine that with where we are right now and still, if you will, populating. This is one of the few places, major market in the world that is still really going through what I call a double transition.
Right.
It's transitioning from 2G/3G to 4G, and it's also transitioning from feature phone to smartphone.
That's right.
And we haven't even begun to talk about IoT or any of that area yet. So, from a readiness perspective, we've gone. Our CEO went on public record, just recently in the last month or so, saying that devices would be ready in the ecosystem at the end of
2019.
2019.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what got all of us really excited and all our ears perked up.
Yeah, it is, and that's accurate. So what I think you'll see, to be frank with you, what you'll see in the world, there's showcase events in the world. It just so happens that the Olympics remain a major showcase event.
That's right.
And it just so happens, as it turns out, that the Olympics are in two of the leading technology markets of the world. Korea in February, Japan in 2020 in Tokyo. So I think what you'll see around that Korea Winter Olympics is a lot of demonstrable activity. And the energy will even grow more around that topic. And then as you get to 2020 in Tokyo, I think you'll start to see products. Prior to that, you'll see some deployments, clearly. Bear in mind, a lot of early 5G may have a very high value in machine-to-machine, IoT, point-to-multipoint types of technologies, smart cities, healthcare, agriculture, management, things of that nature. So and actually 4G rolled out that way. People don't remember that. In 2010 and 2011, the very first 4G devices in the world were MiFis, were modems.
Like routers.
So it's not an unusual way for a new technology to roll out without encumbering it with voice and application.
Absolutely.
So from a readiness perspective, I think that there's a lot of energy in India, and there are challenges between now and then that just simply have to be sorted out. The challenges were well documented this morning in the core sessions. There's nothing I can bring you that's insight on those challenges. You know what they are, right?
Absolutely.
You have to get the standards set, you have to get the spectrum policy agreed, you have to get the investment portfolios aligned, which means ROI is going to come under scrutiny, and so forth and so on. I don't see any reason why those things will not get worked out, but it's a little too early sitting here at the end of the third quarter of 2017 to actually predict and project without some answers to those issues. Predict and project.
No, I think it's important to first take a look from an end user perspective and the use cases. What is 5G? And 5G from that perspective is serving more applications than consumer mobile broadband. So it's about Internet of Things, massive IoT, mission critical communication. And I would say that from an Indian context, the deployments of 3G and 4G is the stepping stone towards serving a 5G use case. And we, Ericsson as a company, is doing everything we can then to help our customers to being prepared for a 5G introduction.
Because from what I understand is, and I think it's important for us to explain exactly how 5G works, because from whatever I gathered from the India Mobile Congress and all the conversations we've had, was that 4G essentially, the existing LTE 4G network would be used perhaps to start off with deploying 5G, and then you would build on top of that. How different would this be from starting off from scratch with 4G?
I think 5G introduction benefits most from actually having a gradual network evolution from 3G, 4G towards 5G. And the major difference, you could say, is that 3G is a 5 megahertz wide carrier, 4G is 20 megahertz, and 5G is several hundred megahertz of bandwidth or spectrum, giving the network gigabit per second capability and ultra low latency and high reliability. So I think that the most important stepping stone is to build the network with 5G ready equipment.
Right.
With our Ericsson radio system, that is actually happening as we speak.
It's already 5G ready.
Yes, so it's already 5G ready. The so-called processing unit, the baseband unit, the brain of the system is 5G ready and prepared for IoT software upgrade, as well as our latest radio equipment also. The radio heads is also capable of carrying this NR, as we call it, 5G carriers.
Right. And this is stuff that you're perhaps testing in even markets like India already as we speak?
Yes, we are deploying Ericsson radio system for 3G and 4G in India. And the good thing is that it supports 2G, 3G, 4G, narrowband IoT, as well as is 5G prepared.
So that would be a hardware plug-in and perhaps a software update when it's...
Yes, so basically what we're deploying is a 5G prepared hardware, and then it's a software upgrade when you have the devices and applications ready for 5G.
Right. Well, also, you know, Christian, it's interesting because you look at partnerships around the world. We've heard of a lot of talk from Korea and Japan when it comes to 5G, especially considering the Olympics. We've also heard of, you know, a lot of advancements in China and in Europe. When you zoom out and you look at, well, a global situation, and you look at India as well, considering our government proactively wants to consider, well, a 5G policy, or is considering it as we speak. What are your thoughts in terms of how advanced things are out here in India vis-a-vis the world?
Well, I think that India is a very exciting market for us to work in. You have a great large scale of your market, and you have also a large scope of innovation, especially in the software industry.
Right.
And since 5G systems will be serving more than consumer mobile broadband, it will be one system for many industries. We are very much looking into deepening our partnership with our customers in India, as well as academia, like the recently announced India Institute of Technology Cooperation, to actually design our 5G system so that it serves the different industries and consumers in an Indian context. So from that perspective, we are very engaged. And 5G is not around the corner. It will be a couple of years until we have the devices out there. But I think this is a good starting point for us to work also in the Indian context to make a 5G network evolution plan successfully implemented in the Indian market.
And what about other markets like China, Japan, Korea? Are talks out there very advanced? Is the planning, a lot more advanced out there?
I think 5G, as the other generation implementation, has sometimes been driven out of large events. And the first deployments of 5G we will see is, of course, the South Korea Olympics, Winter Olympics 2018. We have the Tokyo Olympics 2020. And then we have also the US millimeter wave deployments that are fairly advanced just around the corner. Right. And then we have the large China 5G momentum that we are also engaging in. So it will be those markets. It will be Japan, South Korea, China, US that takes the lead. But I think that will give the scale of economies to make it a really successful implementation in the Indian context also.
You know, in Indian market, spectrum is very expensive.
That's right.
The site acquisition is very challenging. So how to handle these two challenges? Huawei provides our own solution, MySMemo, which can give you the very big capacity.
Right.
And also give the very high efficiency use of the spectrum.
Right, and also, Jay, so when it comes to the Indian market, so like my first question, be it on the 4G, 5G side with the services business, or be it perhaps on the products business where the Honor series is a very popular line of smartphones, even here in a cluttered market. Was it a very different approach that Huawei had to adopt for India compared to what got it to number one in China?
You know, one of the biggest challenge in India for the 4G and even for the future network evolution to the 5G is about the backhaul. It's about the fiber and the transmission. Yes. The fiber is very difficult and also very high investment for India market.
Absolutely.
And currently, we also provide our solution.
Right.
To handle this challenge.
Okay.
Because without the backhaul, 5G is not possible.
Right.
The solution we provide, we call it the fiber in air solution,
Right.
which can solve this issue. But
Right.
currently, the most important, the government of India should release
Right.
the E-band, the spectrum as soon as possible, which is very, very challenging and very, very important to help
Right.
telecom industry
Right.
India
Right.
from the government perspective.
And also, you started off by mentioning how important India is as a market to a company like Huawei. When it comes to what Huawei does in India, be it preparing for something like 5G, or be it perhaps something, a flagship phone like the Honor 8 Pro, how do you split that pie? How much of it is product, how much of it is services?
I don't really understand your point. From our perspective, as I mentioned, India is one of the most important strategic markets
Okay.
in Huawei global layout. And in this market, we understand there is the huge potential
Right.
for India become as the top three
Right.
biggest economy.
Right.
And also 1.3 billion population,
Yes.
which is very young.
Yes.
And by the network development innovation
Yes.
from the 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G,
Right.
the whole industry, not only the telecom, all the different vertical or different industry
Yes.
will be totally changed, will be totally leveraged for
Right.
the development.
Right.
So in my personal opinion,
Yes.
telecom industry of the India will become most powerful driver
Right.
for economic development of India. This is what we see, and this is why we so highly evaluate the Indian market.
Right.
But when you talk about the services
Yes.
and
Product.
products,
Yes.
I think that's the
Okay.
equal important.
Okay.
Equal important. I also can give you example.
Yes.
During in terms of our partnership with the bothie Airtel,
Right.
we provide the equipment to the several circles
Yes.
for the wireless. But after that, how to help Airtel bothie build a good network?
Yes.
It purely depends on the service, depends on the network optimization, depends on the many services
Right.
work. So, in my personal opinion, the equipment and the services are equal.
Okay. For Huawei as a
important.
company.
Yes.
I spent nearly 50,000 rupees on this iPhone last year. And well, it's kind of interesting because if I want to beam or cast any of the content from this phone onto my TV at home, and that has to be a fancy TV, well, I need Apple TV or Chromecast or Fire Stick or one of those fancy devices. Well, there's one company that's changing all of that. It's also changing, well, the fact that you actually use a set-top box with a TV in the first place. It's Reliance Jio. We brought you this Jio phone first on Bloomberg Quint last week. But this is not only about the Jio phone. It's about something that hasn't been launched yet. And I wanted to get it to you on Bloomberg Quint. It happens to be the Jio Media Cable. What's the Jio Media Cable? That's what everyone was talking about. It was announced at that conference by the chairman saying there will be a Jio cable. Is it a simple casting cable? Well, it's an interesting technology. It's very simple, actually. It's essentially this USB, which is connected to this box. The box looks exactly like this. When it comes to this particular box, if you just take it out, it's going to become as one unit. So you'll have this box, this tiny little box, which essentially what you do is you put the USB from the Jio phone into this. On the other end, you have a TV out. In this scenario, this is an HDMI out, which I'll be showing it to you later. But it also comes for these old CRT TVs. Remember the ones you used to smack to actually start and the ones you wanted to change channels on? Well, this one is connected with an RCA cable, the yellow, white, and red one. And I'll show you what the content looks like. If you actually simply just pick up a Jio phone, unlock it, right? Keep the star button to unlock it. Press it, long press it, of course. It's unlocked. There's two ways. Either you speak to it It's a noisy India Mobile Congress, but I'll show you something. What you can do is just hit Jio TV. It loads. And I'm gonna, well, if I'm in the mood to watch a movie and I want to watch it on my Jio phone, running on their Jio network, on this bothie 4G network, I can simply click, I just clicked, and voila. Well, Z Cinema is playing out there automatically. While it's playing, the audio is pretty decent. It's kind of nostalgic. Coming here to the India Mobile Congress, where you have the swankiest gadgets, and a simple cable is getting me well, back on a color television. Well, it's not just CRTs. We also have this. This happens to be an HD TV. And like I showed you, this particular cable has an HDMI out as well, which is what you have on your Tata Sky HD boxes or on your PlayStation 4s. That's what you use. So you got to put that cable in. What they will give you is this cable, the USB, and of course it'll be charging, like I told you earlier. That cable aside, just to show you how quick this is, and this is something I wanted to test for myself, where here this phone's running only on Reliance's Jio network, and I click on it, and I want to watch sports. I love sports, right? You know I love football. I click on it, and the channel changes in an instant to HD futsal. I don't know if I like futsal, but I do like football, and I'm watching HD TV in a jiffy. You can change channels. You can increase the volume. It gets kind of loud if you wanted to.
Rico kicks. So that was an important block from Tontapi.
Believe you me, I thought this was going to be, well, something very different. It would be a very typical cable which you just put in. It's very, very simple in terms of the technology, but as a use case, well, if I was traditionally a cable company or a set-top box company, well, I would be, as a provider, a little worried considering this little 1,500 rupee phone running on a 4G network can do this. Remember, well, they have a plan which is 153 rupees, and your fair usage policy allows you around 500 MB. But if you're going to go to the 399 or the higher plans, your fair usage policy officially allows you 1 GB per day, right? At that speed. Remember, if you're beaming these sort of, well, SD channels or not with full HD content, you can actually stream, and this is what Jio says as well, 3 to 4 hours of content. I don't know if you watch more TV than that, and of course you can purchase more plans. You're going to consume more data, but then you don't need a set-top box once you get this. So there you have it, the Jio media cable first on Bloomberg Quint. Now, while IUC, or Interconnect User Charge, might be a bone of contention between incumbent players like Bharti Airtel, led by Sunil Bharti Mittal, and of course the new kid on the block, Reliance Jio, led by Mukesh Ambani, they might be rivals in the field of business. But here at the India Mobile Congress, well, they greeted each other as long-lost friends. Have a look.
My colleagues, my dear friend Mukesh Ambani,
my good friend from the industry, Sunil Mittal.
And as was pointed out by Secretary earlier and Mukesh, I think India's time has clearly come. Clearly, as Mukesh pointed out, none of us can do it alone. We all have to come together. I hope, together with friends like Mukesh, we will build something for the future.
Sir, as long as you and Mr. Ambani continue to refer to yourselves as friends, I think the industry is okay, sir.
Not bad. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this special broadcast from the India Mobile Congress in New Delhi. Well, as you can see, my, well, painting skills need a little bit of touching up and a little bit of more practice. But thanks so much for tuning in to this special show on Bloomberg Quint.